Memphis Depay scored 35 goals, Atletico Madrid had 107 goals, while Torino and Juventus had 88 and 110 goals respectively. Now, I'm not here to promise you any game-breaking, treble-winning tactics. The game is still new, so I haven't completely understood how the tactics really operate in FM24, but this tactic gets you goals, that's a fact. I've delayed tactic videos for a while just for that reason, to try and understand how FM24 works, and it's still early days, but I'm going to start with the French league and the teams that I went on to test this tactic with. Olympique Lyonnais and Monaco are the two teams that I use in France to go on to test out this tactic, and Monaco did go on to score 20, or they had a goal difference of 22, but if you look at the French league in total, PSG of course had the highest amount of goals and Monaco didn't really score that many, but Olympique Lyonnais on the other hand had 89 goals. It wasn't enough for both teams to do well in the league. They went on to finish second and fourth respectively, but even worse, they had 67 points and then 61 in the case of Monaco. But these are the worst performance with this tactic. In the Italian Serie A, Juventus actually went on to finish in second place with 83 points, but if you look at the amount of goal tally that they had, they scored the highest amount of goals, them and Torino, 110 goals, and then Torino of course had 88 goals in total. Torino, I think they were predicted to finish in somewhere around 9th or 10th, and they somehow snuck into 8th place. It's not very different from where they were supposed to finish, so they were doing badly of course, but they still managed to score just as many goals as they needed to, which is crazy. If you look in detail at the games that they went on to play, they did go on to play against Empoli and they beat Empoli by 4-1. They beat Fiorentina 5-2, and then against Cagliari they slapped Cagliari like 7-2, and all the way up in all the other teams that they went on to play against. Bologna, they beat Bologna by 2-0, and then they beat Lazio 2-0 or 3-0 as well. They lost to Napoli, by the way, 5-3 in a home game, and then when Juventus and Torino met themselves, it was a 5-3, or let me say an 8-goal thriller where Juventus actually came out on top by 5-3. Atletico Madrid, on the other hand, had a heavy victory over Granada by 8-0. They beat Inter Milan as well in the Champions League 4-1 in the second leg. And of course, they beat Manchester City as well. They did want to lose the second leg to Man City 4-0, but that's quite harsh. It's Man City, of course. They beat Sevilla, beat Athletic Club Bilbao, but in all togetherness, they went on to finish in third place. Barcelona and Real Madrid, they are quite strong in this particular version of Football Manager, considering Barcelona has Lamine Yamal. Atletico Madrid had 81 points at the end of the season. They did go on to win the Spanish Cup, and then if you look at the team stats, of course, they had the highest amount of goals, third best points per game, and their 55% possession was only able to get them in 5th place. I think Real San Sebastian, that's Real Sociedad, had the best possession all through the season with 63%. So this is the system that got the results. They have a sweeper keeper here on attack, and then unlike the inverted fullback that is new in Football Manager, this tactic actually retains the inverted wingback on support duty, and then you have two ball-playing defenders on defend duty as well. We'll look at the player roles and the instructions that are attached to them. It's quite instruction heavy, so you need to pay attention if you're going to create a tactic for yourself in your game. So if you have a sweeper keeper on attack, we've already looked at him, and then you have inverted wingback on support duty, taking more risks, shooting less often, and then tackle harder. It's the same on the left and on the right hand side. And then you have ball playing defenders, of course, pass it shorter, dribble less, shoot less often, tackle harder, and mark tighter. I think ball playing defenders do have the same amount of instructions, so it's almost like a mirror on both sides. In midfield, it gets interesting because there's a roaming playmaker, and this was quite a good role in the previous Football Manager game, last FM23. So the roaming playmaker has been instructed to play more direct passes, shoot less often, tackle harder, and mark tighter. And beside him, you have a box-to-box midfielder, which is heavily on making contributions to both midfield, defense, and attack. So he's going to pass it shorter, take more risks, dribble more, shoot less often, get further forward, move into channels, close down more, tackle harder, and mark tighter. Your flank players are two wingers on support duty. They do have identical instructions too, so they're taking more risks, crossing from the byline, holding their position, close down more, tackle harder, and mark tighter. And then in attack, there's an advanced forward, taking more risks, dribbling more, tackling harder, and marking tighter. Both advanced forwards also have identical instructions. This year, I've currently been testing out the pressing forward on attack duty, and this is the first time that I've noticed that in FM24, the advanced forwards are probably slightly more interesting because they've gone on to score a lot more goals than the pressing forward that I've been testing out with Norwich City. For out of possession instructions, you're going to play with a mid block and a higher defensive line, and then you're also going to instruct your team to press much more often and then prevent short goalkeeper distribution. You can somehow take this off considering the mid block, but in case you switch to a high press, it's also useful to have the prevent short goalkeeper distribution selected in your team. In transition, the goalkeeper is going to be instructed to distribute the ball to the fullbacks and also rolling the ball out. The team is also going to rely on counter pressing and counters to try and get the ball forward as quickly as possible. If you notice that your team cannot win possession very early, go on to take off the counter press and try to sit in that mid block and be more conservative in trying to win the ball back. Now when the team is in possession, they're going to pass it shorter and then play with a very high tempo. They're also playing out of defense and then overlapping on both flanks. They're passing into space as well and also playing low crosses and walking the ball into the box while running at the opposition's defense. The general mentality for this tactic is attacking. I do recommend playing on balance if you're playing against a top team. It helps to start out this way and then see how the game unfolds and see if you can go on to play on the front foot as the minutes continue to unfold in the game. So I'll be back with more tactics like this, and as I go on to understand how tactics work in the game, I'll probably share more Football Manager tactic hints and tips with you guys. So you can check out this tactic for yourself. I'm going to leave a link in the description so you can download the tactic, or you can just follow along the video and try to recreate the tactic for yourself. I'll be back with more Football Manager 2024 videos and tactics like this. See you in the next video.